The Bad Boys franchise, with its blend of buddy cop humor and explosive action, has always held a special place in the hearts of moviegoers. The original film, released in 1995, burst onto the scene, introducing us to the charismatic duo of Mike Lowrey and Marcus Burnett. Will Smith and Martin Lawrence, with their undeniable chemistry, quickly became fan favorites. The sequel, Bad Boys 2, followed in 2003, upping the ante with even more over-the-top action and irreverent humor. Now, nearly 30 years after the original film's release, Bad Boys Ride or Die attempts to recapture the magic that made the franchise so beloved. The question on everyone's mind: can this latest installment recapture the energy and excitement of its predecessors, or is it a case of too little, too late? The film industry, and indeed the world, has changed significantly since 2003. Audiences have evolved, and what once felt fresh and exciting may now seem stale and predictable. Despite the time that has passed, there's an undeniable sense of nostalgia associated with the return of Mike and Marcus. The original films hold a certain nostalgic charm for many, representing a time when action comedies were loud, boisterous, and unapologetically over the top. Bad Boys Ride or Die taps into this nostalgia, banking on the audience's fondness for these characters and their world. The filmmakers have made a conscious decision to retain the core elements that define the franchise: the buddy cop dynamic, the high-octane action sequences, and of course the comedic interplay between its leads. But the question remains, is this enough to satisfy longtime fans and win over a new generation of moviegoers? Or will Ride or Die simply feel like a rehash of past glories? The answer, as with most things, is complicated. One of the most anticipated aspects of Bad Boys Ride or Die is the reunion of Will Smith and Martin Lawrence. Their on-screen chemistry was undeniably a driving force behind the success of the previous films. They played off each other perfectly, creating a dynamic that was both hilarious and endearing. Their comedic timing was impeccable, their banter rapid-fire and effortlessly funny. In Ride or Die, Smith and Lawrence slip back into their respective roles with ease. It's as if no time has passed at all. Smith's Mike Lowrey is still the smooth-talking ladies' man, while Lawrence's Marcus Burnett remains the more cautious and family-oriented of the duo. Their interactions feel familiar, comfortable even. However, this familiarity, while initially comforting, soon reveals itself to be a double-edged sword. While the actors themselves haven't lost their comedic spark, the material they're given doesn't always allow them to shine as brightly as they did in the past. The script often relies on recycled jokes and familiar character beats, leaving little room for genuine surprise or spontaneity. The once fresh and unpredictable nature of their interactions feels somewhat subdued, lacking the same level of energy and inventiveness that characterized their earlier outings. Despite these shortcomings, there's still a certain pleasure in watching Smith and Lawrence work their magic together, even if it's within the confines of a somewhat predictable script. Their comedic timing remains sharp, and their genuine affection for each other shines through, reminding audiences why they fell in love with these characters in the first place. The question is, can their undeniable chemistry carry the film, or is it simply not enough to salvage a franchise showing its age? Bad Boys Ride or Die sees a changing of the guard behind the camera. Michael Bay, the director of the first two films, steps aside, handing over the reins to Adil El Arbi and Bilal Fallah, a directing duo best known for their work on the action comedy Black and the television series Snowfall. This changing of the guard brings with it both opportunities and challenges. On the one hand, the fresh perspective of new directors could have injected new life into the franchise. El Arbi and Fallah, with their background in action and comedy, seemed well equipped to handle the demands of a Bad Boys film. On the other hand, there's always the risk that new directors might not fully grasp the essence of what made the original so special. The challenge for El Arbi and Fallah lies in balancing a reverence for the established style with their own creative vision. Unfortunately, Ride or Die often feels caught between trying to emulate Bay's signature style and forging its own path. The action sequences, while competently executed, lack the same kinetic energy and over-the-top spectacle that defined the previous films. Similarly, the humor, while present, often feels forced and predictable, lacking the spontaneity and edge of the originals. The pacing of the film is also somewhat uneven. The first act drags in places, taking its time to set up the story and reintroduce the characters. The second act picks up considerably, delivering a series of action-packed set pieces and comedic interludes. However, the film stumbles again in its final act, resorting to a predictable and somewhat anticlimactic climax. Overall, Ride or Die feels like a missed opportunity. It's a film that's neither a complete failure nor a resounding success, but rather a somewhat uninspired retread of familiar territory. The Bad Boys franchise has always prided itself on its ability to seamlessly blend action and comedy. The original films were filled with explosive set pieces and hilarious banter, creating a unique and highly entertaining cinematic experience. Finding the right balance between these two elements is crucial. Too much action, and the film becomes repetitive and exhausting. Too much comedy, and it risks undermining the stakes and tension. Ride or Die struggles to find this delicate balance. The action sequences, while technically proficient, lack the same sense of visceral excitement and visual flair that characterized the previous films. They often feel more obligatory than inspired, as if they're simply going through the motions of what's expected from a Bad Boys film. The humor, too, feels somewhat uneven. There are moments of genuine laughter, mostly derived from the interplay between Smith and Lawrence. However, these moments are often overshadowed by jokes that fall flat or feel recycled from the previous films. The script relies too heavily on familiar tropes and gags, leaving little room for surprise or originality. This imbalance is most evident in the film's numerous car chases and shootouts. While these sequences are competently staged, they lack a certain sense of weight and consequence. The action is often so over-the-top and cartoonish that it's difficult to feel truly invested in the character's safety or the outcome of their mission. The humor, too, feels out of place at times, undercutting any sense of danger or tension that the filmmakers are trying to create. Bad Boys Ride or Die is a film of missed opportunities. It had all the ingredients to be a worthy successor to the franchise, but it ultimately fails to recapture the magic that made the originals so special. The film is at its best when it embraces its comedic sensibilities, allowing Smith and Lawrence to work their magic. However, these moments are too often overshadowed by uninspired action sequences and a script that relies too heavily on familiar tropes and gags.